Why are the Blue Jays suddenly obsessed with a left-handed reliever nobody's talking about? And could this under-the-radar move be the difference between another heartbreaking October exit and finally hoisting that championship trophy? While everyone's fixated on the Kyle Tucker sweepstakes and the Pete Fairbanks pursuit, Ross Atkins is doing what championship front offices do best, working in the shadows to find value where others aren't looking. Fresh reporting from Heavy Sports, published today on December 5th, 2025, has connected the Toronto Blue Jays to St. Louis Cardinals left-handed reliever JoJo Romero. And before you dismiss this as just another bullpen depth move, you need to understand what Romero brings to the table and why this would be the smartest acquisition of Toronto's entire offseason. We're talking about a pitcher who posted a 2.07 ERA last season, costs only $4.4 million in 2026, and is available because the Cardinals are in full fire sale mode. This is the kind of move that doesn't generate headlines but wins championships. Let's start with the basics, because if you're not familiar with JoJo Romero, you're about to be. He's a 27-year-old left-hander who spent last season with the Cardinals. And while St. Louis was an absolute disaster as a team, Romero was quietly dominant. He appeared in 65 games, through 61 innings, and posted that ridiculous 2.07 ERA with a 1.25 whip. But here's what makes him special. He wasn't just a matchup guy brought in to face one left-handed batter. He was a high-leverage arm who handled critical situations all season long. When Ryan Helsley got traded and the Cardinals needed someone to step up in the late innings, Romero answered the call. Over the final 2 months of the season, he converted 8 of 9 save opportunities and struck out 20 batters in 25.2 innings. That's closer level production from a guy making backup catcher money. Now here's where this gets really interesting, and this is the part that should have Blue Jays fans salivating. According to analysis from Caleb Kearney and data from Brooks Baseball, Romero has a secret weapon he barely uses: his four-seam fastball. He relies primarily on a sinker and slider combination, which are both effective pitches. But that four-seamer generates an extremely high number of swings and misses compared to other pitchers. It has heavy sinking action and velocity well above average. The problem is, he doesn't throw it enough. And this is where Toronto's pitching development staff comes into play. Remember what they did with Robbie Ray? Remember how they helped UCI Kikuchi unlock another level? If the Blue Jays coaching staff can convince Romero to feature that four-seamer more prominently, he could transform from a really good setup man into an untouchable closer. That's not hyperbole. That's legitimate upside based on the underlying metrics. Let's talk about why Romero is even available, because that context matters. The St. Louis Cardinals are blowing it up. They've already traded away Sonny Gray and Ryan Helsley. They're in full rebuild mode, which means every veteran on an expiring contract is on the block. Romero is entering his final year of team control before hitting free agency in 2027. For St. Louis, he's a trade chip. For Toronto, he's a potential cornerstone of their bullpen for the next 2 seasons, if they can extend him. Jeff Jones from the Belleville News-Democrat confirmed that Romero is attracting trade interest this winter, which means the Blue Jays aren't the only team circling. But Toronto has the prospect capital to get a deal done without gutting their farm system. We're probably talking about a mid-level prospect, maybe a B or C tier guy who projects as a 4th outfielder or back-end starter. That's a price worth paying for a pitcher of Romero's caliber. Here's the financial genius of this move, and this is where Ross Atkins deserves credit for thinking strategically. After spending $240 million on the rotation with Dylan Cease and Cody Ponce, Toronto needs efficiency in the bullpen. They can't afford to drop another $20 million per year on a closer, when they're trying to save money for Kyle Tucker or a potential Bo Bichette extension. JoJo Romero costs $4.4 million next season. That's nothing. That's the kind of salary that doesn't even register on the luxury tax calculations. And if he performs the way his metrics suggest he can, that's elite production at a bargain price. This is Moneyball in action. This is finding value in places other teams aren't looking. Let's talk about how Romero fits into the current Blue Jays bullpen, because the need is real. Seranthony Dominguez left in free agency. Jordan Romano's health is a constant question mark. The late innings setup and closing roles have uncertainty written all over them. Romero would immediately slot in as the primary left-handed high-leverage arm. He's got the stuff to face right-handed batters, but he absolutely dominates lefties. Last season, left-handed hitters batted just .181 against him. That's the kind of matchup advantage that wins playoff games. Pair him with Chad Green and potentially Pete Fairbanks if that deal gets done, and suddenly Toronto has a back-end bullpen that can match up with anyone in the American League. But here's the part that might ruffle some feathers. The Heavy Sport article suggests that Romero could push Jeff Hoffman out of the closer role. Hoffman had a solid season in 2025, and he's been reliable for Toronto. But Romero offers a different look, better underlying metrics, and a higher ceiling in pressure situations. If the Blue Jays acquire Romero and he performs the way his numbers suggest he will, it's not crazy to think he becomes the primary closer by the end of the season. That's not a knock on Hoffman. That's just recognizing that Romero might be the better option when the game is on the line in October. Now let's address the elephant in the room. Why isn't anyone else talking about this? Why is JoJo Romero flying so far under the radar when his numbers are elite? Part of it is market size. The Cardinals were terrible last season, so nobody was watching their games. Part of it is name recognition. Romero isn't a household name like Edwin Diaz or Josh Hader. And part of it is the fact that he's a left-handed reliever, which is a position that doesn't get the same attention as starting pitchers or closers. But smart front offices don't care about headlines. They care about production. And Romero's production speaks for itself. Here's the acquisition cost breakdown, and this is important. The Cardinals aren't going to give Romero away for nothing, but they're also not in a position to demand a king's ransom. He's got 1 year control left, which limits his trade value compared to someone with multiple years of team control. Toronto could probably get this done by sending a prospect in the 10 to 20 range on their organizational depth chart. Maybe it's a pitching prospect who's blocked by the current rotation depth. Maybe it's an outfielder who doesn't have a clear path to playing time with the current roster construction. Either way, it's not a prospect you could lose sleep over, and the return is a proven major league reliever with elite numbers. Let's talk about the broader strategy here, because this move fits perfectly into what the Blue Jays are trying to accomplish. They build an elite rotation with Gausman, Cease, Bieber, Yesevich, and Ponce. That's 5 starters who can go deep into games and give you a chance to win every night. But rotations don't win championships alone. You need a bullpen that can protect leads. And you need that bullpen to be cost-effective so you can spend money on impact bats. JoJo Romero is the perfect example of a high-value, low-cost addition that allows Toronto to allocate resources elsewhere. If they can get Romero for $4.4 million and Pete Fairbanks for $9 million, that's $13.4 million total for 2 elite late-inning arms. Compare that to spending $25 million on 1 premium closer, and the efficiency becomes obvious. There's also the competitive advantage of taking a player from a division rival. Wait, the Cardinals aren't in the AL East, so that doesn't apply here. But there is value in acquiring talent from a team that's rebuilding before another contender swoops in. If the Yankees or Orioles grab Romero instead, that's one more weapon they have to face in a tight division race. By being proactive and aggressive, Toronto ensures they're strengthening their own roster while preventing competitors from doing the same. Here's what excites me most about this potential move: the upside. We're not talking about a finished product. We're talking about a 27-year-old pitcher who's still developing, who has a plus pitch he's not fully utilizing, and who's about to work with one of the best pitching development staffs in baseball. If the Blue Jays can unlock that four-seam fastball and get Romero to feature more prominently, he could go from a 2 ERA reliever to a sub-2 ERA closer who's unhittable in high-leverage situations. That's the kind of player development that turns good teams into great ones. Let's be realistic about the risks, though, because no move is without downside. Romero is entering his final year of team control, which means if he has a great season, he's going to be expensive to re-sign. There's also the question of whether his 2025 performance was a breakout or an outlier. He's been a solid reliever throughout his career, but last season was by far his best. If he regresses to his career norms, he's still a useful piece, but he's not the game changer Toronto is hoping for. And there's always injury risk with relievers, especially ones who throw as many high-stress innings as Romero did last season. But here's why I think the gamble is worth it. The cost of acquisition is low, the financial commitment is minimal, and the potential payoff is enormous. If JoJo Romero comes to Toronto and performs anywhere close to his 2025 level, he's one of the best bullpen values in baseball. If he takes another step forward with better pitch usage and coaching, he could be a legitimate closer on a championship team. And if it doesn't work out, the Blue Jays are only out a mid-level prospect and $4.4 million. That's a risk-reward calculation that makes sense every single time. The Blue Jays are building something special here. They've addressed the rotation with elite talent. They're pursuing impact bats like Kyle Tucker. They're looking at closers like Pete Fairbanks. And now they're targeting under-the-radar bullpen arms like JoJo Romero, who can provide elite production without breaking the bank. This is how championship teams are built, not with one or two splashy signings, but with a combination of star power and smart, efficient depth moves that maximize every dollar payroll. If Ross Atkins can pull off the Romero trade, it's another piece of the championship puzzle falling into place. The bullpen goes from a question mark to a strength. The financial flexibility remains intact for other moves, and Toronto adds a left-handed weapon who can dominate in the late innings. This is the kind of move that doesn't generate headlines on ESPN, but it's the kind of move that wins games in October when every pitch matters and one mistake can end your season.